Hello and welcome to A Celtic World, the YouTube channel and podcast connecting Celtic fans all over the planet. From Uddingston to Uddersfield, Pollock to Polynesia. It's A Celtic World and you're all part of it. And who do we have here? Oh, we have Paul in the very specific Western Australia. Hello, Paul.
Yeah, well, hi Gav. I thought I'd just be specific, I suppose. There's always, anyone that knows anything about Western Australia, there's always chats about seceding from the rest of the nation because we basically prop it up with oil and gas and mining money. So it's just good to have a bit of difference, just show a bit of difference to Steve on the East Coast, me on the West Coast.
Well, if ever I needed further evidence that I didn't check everyone's name and location, Kaiser is where? Can't quite see
Mordor, in the centre
us
of
about
Mordor, in the Valley of Evil. Good morning, legends. Thank you for being here. This will be a good one.
And joining us again is Stephen, who's in, well, it just says Australia, but you're in the beautiful prime city of Australia, are you not, Sydney?
Yeah, I was going to say that there. I'm joining you here from Australia's premier city, the wonderful harbour city of Sydney. You know, the iconic one that everybody thinks about when they think about Australia. But yeah, it's pretty wet here just now. We're suffering a weather phenomenon known as an East Coast low, which is just a big depression that sits off the coast and just drags wet weather right across the whole East Coast from Queensland right down to Victoria. So practical upshot of that is it's pissing down. So it reminds me very much of home.
Doesn't sound like Premier City weather, does it? 30 degrees here all day today. Beautiful.
We always start with weather. Why do we always start with weather? I never ask how's the weather where you are, or seldom.
That's why it's so green, Paul. It's so green and beautiful here because we get a bit of rain from time to time, and it's not like 1,000,000 degrees every day.
30 is all right. I can live with 30. It's a nice old autumn week we've got at the moment.
As if to encourage us to move on, here's the live stream times. Currently, it's going to be changing in Sydney, but 11 a.m. from now on, Celtic Park time. So set your watches, or better still, subscribe and hit the notification bell, and then you can be told when we're on. Isn't that right? And I'll tell you another thing I never ask for, Kaiser. You're always at me to do this more, but likes. Like, I never ask people to like. If all of our regulars, all of our worldies, I'm not going to call them, Paul, all the people in the comments who are saying hello, if they could all like the video, that would be awesome. Let's see who's there, shall we?
Hell yeah.
The ever-present, who's the snitch?
Liking the video helps combat the YouTube algorithm and shares it to more Celtic supporters who will see the podcast. So doing that really helps the podcast grow, and also sharing it to your social media. No one finds us if you don't let them know it's a good place to come. So please do so.
Fantastic.
All the legends in chat.
I can't remember whose names I've put up.
Who's the snitch? Pete McGee.
Plunge McNugget.
Put them up again.
Michael Ross. This is fun for people tuning in the first time. And everybody else who's there.
Comment, and then they'll get to be their little name and lights for a second.
Okay, so what are we talking about today? Well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? It's all about the big game, but we're going to break it down like this. First of all, we're going to talk a bit about form and fitness. We're going to discuss starters, team sheet. We're going to talk a little bit about the atmosphere. Then we're going to do a little section I call Undercover Agent, where I let you know what I've been picking up from the other side in the past couple of days, what their thoughts are. And, of course, Celtic socials at the end. So that's very exciting. All righty then. So to introduce the first section, it's about form and fitness. I mean, what happens to form in matches like this, Paul?
Goes out the window.
Exactly.
Except it doesn't necessarily go out the window. But yeah, that is the famous cliche that doesn't matter your form going into these games, it's how you perform on the day, which is always kind of true, I guess. But I think we'd be much rather going into this with the last couple of wins under our belt and those performances than at other points in the season.
Mm-hmm.
But wouldn't it be nice if after this match that nasty little grey D had disappeared because of the effluxion of time to be replaced by a green W? And they
It'll
had
definitely be replaced. It's just a case of it's going to be replaced with.
Mm-hmm.
By what? Yeah, there's not too much time to be spent on form. I wouldn't have thought, at least the last bunch of games. Here's the table, which we are sitting atop on 74 points. Rangers second, 73, game in hand. So, well, I think the best place to start with this is talking about how big a game is it, Kaiser?
It's gargantuan. It's an absolute massive game. Pivotal to the season. A must win or a must not lose, more to the point, I would say. Performance, really looking for it, as we have hinted at there. Form goes out the window. That is the saying, form goes out the window. But we're looking for the quality that we've been shown in the past couple of weeks to just ring through. I believe we do have better players. By far, we have a better footballing squad. But I think the Sevcovians are also very good at set pieces, set plays, putting the ball in, pinging it into the box. They seem to make that work for them, something that we don't make work for us. So really just looking for to show, like, just put our best foot forward. Just come in here and stake our claim for this year's title. There's a lot of money at stake, 60-odd million, Champions League place. So it's do or die. Seems to be appropriate, in my opinion.
Here we have someone joining from one of your channels, Kaiser.
Yo, Kelso, welcome in, legend.
Welcome.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, we're trying
Likes
to
and
share
share.
this on as many different sort of platforms and people's platforms as possible to spread the good news. Stephen, on the last show on Monday, you were talking about how you would take a draw. Have you been ruminating on that? As you go to bed at night, close your eyes and think, what did I say that for? I didn't want a draw.
Yeah, I've been ruminating all week. I think I'm over it now. Yeah, I think I'd still take a draw, to be honest with you. I've offered it right now. Obviously, winning the game would be brilliant. But I think it's important to remember how difficult it is to go there and get a result. Even very, very good Celtic teams in great form find it difficult there. And Angie's teams, for instance, we won a few games there, lost a couple, but it was never easy. So it's not an easy place to go. Add into that, our form's been a bit patchy this season. Question marks over fitness of a few players. Throw into that the ridiculous refereeing appointment, and I think mix all that together, and I think a draw would probably be a good result for Celtic if we come out the other side of this still top of the league, with them albeit having a game to play, which is away at Dundee, and then we still get to take them back to Celtic Park after the split, with the opportunity then to go top. I think that would be a good outcome from the game. But let's hope we win, because winning would be a massive blow to them, not only in terms of points, just in terms of confidence as well. And you might find that they collapse if we win, or even if we get a positive result, it might cause them to second guess themselves, and they might drop some more points between now and the end of the season. It might end up being a comfortable league win for us. But I think a good place to start is to getting a positive result, which to me would be a draw or a win.
Well, I wanted to sort of create some sort of visual about that to help us talk through the possible permutations. Just to be clear, Can everybody see that? Is that big enough to read?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, perfect.
So we win and we're 4 points clear. They can cut that to 1 point if they beat Dundee. We'll then have a 1 point lead going into the last 6 fixtures, 1 plus the split. And we can make that 4 points by beating them at home. And then it's down to whatever else happens in the other matches. Now, there's 2 assumptions in that first section. One is that they beat Dundee. and the other is that we beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, without putting my Alan Morrison hat on, I'd say the first assumption is smaller than the second. I mean, Rangers are going to beat Dundee, you would have thought.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next match that we have against them, it has more of a random factor, I'd say, associated with it in terms of the outcome. So that's what happens if we win. That's awesome. That'll be great. If we draw, we remain 1 point clear. They're likely to then have a 2 point lead after the Dundee game.
Mm-hmm.
So a 2 point lead entering the last 6 fixtures. We can make that a 1 point lead for us by beating them. So that's incredibly tight. And then it comes down to any slip-ups in the other games.
Mm-hmm. I just think with this coming game, you know what I mean, Gav? With this coming game, with their game against Dundee, even though we know that split's coming, you put the table up there, and it looked very strange that every other team had played that extra game, and Rangers and Dundee have not. For me, them not playing in the first available opportunity, which would have been earlier this week, them not doing that, coupled with the referee selections, the extra rest they've had, the form leading into this game, it's got the air of a perfect storm. It seems it's building. This assistance of the Seth Colvins is building. It seems to be aligning in their favour, which makes it all the better that I think we're going to go and absolutely destroy them. I just see us doing it.
We may destroy them as much as your dog's toenails are destroying your kitchen floor, which I can hear in the background. But look, we'll get on to all that. Let's just finish off this graphic for a moment. Well, not a graphic, but visual aid. If we lose, they're 2 points clear. They could make it 5 points by beating Dundee, and 5 points going into the last 6 fixtures is a big margin. We can bring that back to 2 points by beating them at home, but then we're in desperate need of them dropping more points in the other games. So a win for us is very good news for the title. A draw is pretty good news for the title, and a loss is pretty disastrous for the title. Is that a fair summary, Paul?
It's spot on. It's absolutely spot on. And I agree with Steve to some degree. Like, a draw is not the worst result in the world, but I wouldn't be, like I said it on Monday, I say it again, I wouldn't take it now. I think they're there for the taking. And if we beat them on Sunday, it just ramps up the pressure even more on that Dundee game. Some of the guys in the comment are saying they could lose that game. They might not lose it, but there is the opportunity to draw points. The bigger the gap we put on them, the earlier as possible, the more pressure comes on, and we know this team can't cope with pressure. So I think we've just got to win. We've got to win. Yeah, losing's a bit of a disaster, but if we set our tactics up right, we've got the strongest squad yet going up against them this season. We've already hit a bit of form, and players are coming back into fitness and availability. Kaiser talks about a perfect storm on their side, and there is a bit of that, but we're as well placed to come up against them as we have been all season. And if that doesn't give you a wee bit of confidence in which is what has been a pretty poor season all round and very patchy and up and down, I don't know what will. I honestly feel about as confident as I could, given the backdrop of the season going into this match. And as I said before, I'll say it again, Rodgers loves these games. He'll be right up for it. The team will be right up for it. And yeah, let's see. But we've beaten them twice already. So I don't see why, with a stronger team, I don't see why we can't go and do it again.
Losing the league's over, says Plunge McNugget. And Pete McGee agrees. Losing, I think the title's gone. Win and it's ours. Draw and it's anyone's. I mean, what could be more exciting than a game of football with all of this hinging on it? Oh my God, I can hardly think about the game without getting proper nervous.
Yeah, the nerves are coming on like a flood. You know what I mean? They start a small ebbing wave. You can feel it. Especially today, I started feeling it. Especially being here, you know what I mean, in the Den of Sin. I possibly will be one of the only Celtic fans at Ibrox. Not inside the stadium, but hovering around the outside. You know what I mean? Floating around the area. Perhaps throwing a few pyros. Let's see what happens. I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, everyone's excited. 420 somewhere is absolutely buzzing. I don't know if that's because of the game or because of what's in his name, but who knows?
Combination.
I get more nervous when the potential upside is awesome of something, and I'm thinking, God, the potential of whatever this thing that's about to happen is really awesome. And if I don't get that desired outcome, I'm going to be annoyed, rather than, oh, the downside's terrible. But in a match like this, you've got both sides of that scale going on, so it's just massive.
It's what we live for, innit? As football fans, this is what we live for. And okay, how it's came about seems to be a bit, I would say, like some of the reports I've watched, some of the unraveling of statistics I've watched in other places kind of lead me to the belief that there's someone's getting a little leg up and a little help up the wall to get there. But they are there, and it's building up, as it says, perfect storm. It's building up to be a really good game. Really, really, the anticipation is building.
Okay, so let's talk about us, concentrate on us, keep the commenters happy, talk about us winning. Let's just do that for the next 44 minutes. Players, fitness check. Steve, you've been watching every piece of possible information that's been dribbling through on a minute-by-minute basis about players. So what can you tell us about McGregor, for example?
Yeah, when I've not been ruminating, I've been keeping a close eye on many pictures coming out of the Celtic training ground. I think they'll keep McGregor's fitness and availability status under wraps as long as they can, because it really affects how Rangers will set up for the game. I think McGregor's a key player for us, and certainly has been in the games against them over the past couple of years. So I expect McGregor to be fit and to play. And if he is fit, he goes straight back into the team for me. Everyone else came through the game again. We got 60 minutes out of Hatate and a full 90 out of Cameron Carter-Vickers on the Livingston carpet. So I think both of them will be good to go for starting places. And it then comes down to what the manager wants to do in terms of the shape of the team. But I think everybody's fit to go. I even think Lewis Palmer's fit again. I think I read somewhere that he was going to be available again for the weekend. So that's really everyone. And, I think that's probably the first, as Paul alluded to earlier, probably the first time this season we've been in that situation with a full squad to pick from.
Well, we'll come back to Palma in a second, but the only other player that you mentioned on Monday who we don't have has been spotted down the boozer. Has everyone seen that story?
Down the Brazen? Yeah. Nawrocki.
No, I've missed that. No, I've missed that one.
Nawrocki was seen down the Brazen Heed, wasn't he? And not quite as much fanfare as when Jota was there, though. It's fair to say.
Well, he never had the double denim on for a start, so he got 0 points in the fashion scoring. So, but maybe he's trying to sort of replicate what Jota achieved last year or the year before, and becoming sort of a cult figure. So, why not? He's probably around the city himself. He's not playing at the moment, so
he's got nothing else to do.
He's looking for things to do to pass his time. And the Brazen Head, if you've not been in there, is it's quite a place. So it's a place that if you're a Celtic fan, you should always visit it at least once.
All right, so back to Palma. Let's talk about Palma, Paul. He's been a bit under the radar these days, it's fair to say. But we mustn't forget how much he contributed to us when he arrived. And I'm on the record as saying, with the right training and a greater understanding of what we want him to do and what we don't want him to do, he could be a very important player for us. And it wouldn't be entirely unlike him to come on as a sub and score a beauty and remind us what he's capable of.
Well, I don't think he'll make the squad. So I think it's unlikely. I don't think he'll make the squad. No, I was looking at it. In terms of what the bench has got, if he makes the squad, bear in mind he's ahead of schedule coming back from a month-long injury. If he makes the bench, either Forrest or Yang drops out. So do you get rid of... So, and to me, Yang's in the squad based on form pre and post the suspension. Showed a little cameo against Livy. was involved in the final goal. He's got that bit of skill that could potentially unlock a defence. So then, to me, it's a straight fight between James Forrest and Palmer. And going Ibrox with all his experience, do you ditch James Forrest after the cameos he's had in the last few weeks? I probably wouldn't. So for me, Lewis Palmer, keep him in cotton wool. He can work his way back into the squad for games to come. But for me, he doesn't make the squad after being out for over a month.
Kaiser, are we not going to see Palmer in your book?
I would leave James Forrest in the house. I know he came on and had a little cameo goal in that, but I think when it comes right down to making a change and who can influence a game and who can come on and maybe change a game for you, I think I've seen enough of James Forrest coming on and relying on James Forrest to change games and it not happening. I would like to see Lewis Palmer come on. But I understand fully what Paul's saying about how the period he's been out and running into this game. And there are other games to come should this game go well. You know what I mean? It's not a foregone conclusion. You know what I mean? We need to cross the T's and dot the I's in every other game as well. So there is plenty of opportunity there to come in. I do hear exactly what Paul's saying and I appreciate it. It makes a lot of sense. But
I think with the strengthening in midfield, there's enough firepower across the front part of the field that you don't need to risk rushing Lewis Palmer back into the squad.
Mm-hmm.
So do we all think we know who the starting lineup is then, the one we discussed on Monday?
Assuming Carl's fit, I think we do.
That's who we think ought to play.
Mm-hmm.
I think will play.
That's the kind of team that would go up against most teams. Is there any argument for saying that a different formation or a different lineup? Now you can definitely hear dogs, right?
Yeah.
No.
Right, well, I'm not muting myself because I keep forgetting to unmute. So that's even more.
Just go to the window and shout who let the dogs out.
I think you could probably make a fairly coherent case for all the midfielders in the squad to start. I think Iwata's done well the last few games. You could make an argument for him starting in front of Hatate. Hatate have been out for so long in the game. We're going to play a lot of this game on the back foot. So you could make an argument for Hatate sitting in the sixth row and Kalmak pushing a bit further forward, still with some defensive solidity in the team. You could also make a case for Bernardo starting because he had a good cameo against Livingston, scored a goal, and he did play well against Rangers at Celtic Park earlier in the season. So I think, I think there are decisions to make, but I do agree. I think he'll go with the three we're expecting. I think he'll go with Kalmak, Hatate, and O'Reilly, with options there to bring maybe Iwata on later in the game if we're in front or in control of the game and try to see the game out. I think that would be a decent move to make. And I think what will go against Iwata is that he has been playing well recently, but the performance he delivered against Hearts at Tynecastle was just so appallingly bad. I think that will probably cost him any chance of a place in the starting lineup for this because we just can't afford to carry a passenger like that in a game like this. He was so bad that day. And I think that's still hanging over him a little bit. But he has delivered his best performances for Celtic when he's come on late on in games to see games out that we've been winning. So I expect that probably will be what happens at Ibrox.
Stephen McGinn was on Go Radio. I don't know if you ever watched those snippets on YouTube. And he said he would go for a midfield of McGregor, Iwata, Hatate and O'Reilly, with one of them pushing a bit wide, Maid on the left, Kyogo in the middle, stiffen up that midfield because it's Rangers. Now, I can't imagine Rodgers doing anything like that. Can anyone?
Like Steve said, you can make a case for it, but you can make a case for various things because we've got strength and depth in the midfield. But I think we've got to be positive in this fixture. I think, like I said earlier, we're going there with the strongest squad we've had. The starting lineup will be the strongest we've had all season, especially in derbies. The bench is as deep as it's been all season. I think it's a time to be bold and be brave and just play how we normally play and let them worry about us. And Nicholas Kuhn's come on to a game and he can unlock defences. And let's bear in mind that however much they throw at us, there'll be way more space than there usually is. There will be no low block. There'll be opportunities to get in behind fullbacks. And that centre-back pair, I don't care who plays, the slow as a week in the jail on the turn. So there's opportunities to get Kyogo in behind. So I think let them worry about us rather than us worrying about them. That doesn't mean gung-ho and, we're not going to play like Ange used to play and, leave ourselves potentially short at the back. We'll be playing how we've played all season, but let's set up how we've set up all season and cause them a headache.
There was also a caller suggesting that Adam Ida should start ahead of Kyogo, a Celtic fan saying that, with Kyogo to appear later in the game. That was Brian's suggestion on Monday's show, which raised a few eyebrows. How are your eyebrows in relation to that, Kaiser?
I would always start Kyogo. I think he's showed his quality at Ibrox. In these big games, you need that quality. Ida, whatever the way you want to enunciate it. He's come in and done well, you know what I mean? And he's a good option, a powerhouse player to bring on. I would rather be bringing him on and starting with Kyogo, leading with our best foot forward and hoping, like Paul said, Kyogo's got the beating of the defence there. And he's certainly got the movement, you know what I mean? And the ability. So let's hope we can find him.
And he's got a track record. He's got the track record in the fixture. He scores goals against them. He causes them problems. Even when it doesn't look like he's having a great game, he pops up with a great finish. He's had the critical goal in both games against them. He's got to play.
Also on Go Radio, Hugh Keevans and Kenny Miller. I saw
all the big guns you're coming out with here.
Well, they were having a discussion, and listening to it made me quite proud of what we achieve here. We're a bunch of amateurs, but I think what we deliver is a pretty good product compared to them and what I was listening to. We are as smooth as silk. So listen to this.
It could have been part of their decision. It could have impacted their decision. There's no doubt it could have.
No.
So it couldn't have.
You're saying it impacted their decision?
Yeah, it could have.
Well, could have or did?
No, I'm saying it could have.
Well,
and it maybe did.
Well,
you don't know it never.
Maybe it didn't.
Yeah, well, maybe it didn't.
Right. How painful was that?
Morons.
I mean,
maybe they are. Maybe they are, Nick. I don't know.
Gav, you'll enjoy this. My favourite bit of the whole section was Hugh Keevans trying to correct Kenny Miller that it's could have, not could have.
Yes. Yeah, but you're not allowed to do that. You grammar Nazi. You're going to say it's not right to say, I have went next. How dare you? All right. Let's talk about atmosphere. I love a party with a happy atmosphere. Now, is it going to be a party in Ibrox? We hope not. Little Chrissy Boyd and Sutton were talking, you may have seen this, about the stadium being full of Rangers fans. Boyd saying how the fans are all behind Clement. The mood of the place is totally different. But I'm pretty sure their fans are only too aware that Clement hasn't beaten us yet. And if we take the lead and start looking good, how do you think the mood of their fans is going to change, Stephen?
Well, I mean, it will change. You've seen that in games they've already played this season. When things aren't going great for the team, then the boos come out. They've been booed off the park numerous times at Ibrox, even since Clement came in. And let's be fair, they've had a really good run of results. But if we're getting towards winning this game, see we go 1 or 2 goals up, the atmosphere in the place will turn toxic. I mean, it's toxic at the best of times with the calibre of people who attend that establishment, but it'll turn even worse, and they'll be apoplectic with rage if we win this game. Because they're expecting to do a number on us. And I think they're definitely going to get a nasty shock. And if they'll come out the block flying, first 20 minutes will be crucial. And that, they'll probably dominate possession for the first 15, 20 minutes of the game. But we just need to sit in tight, keep our shape, listen to what the manager's instructions were and carry them out. And if we get through that spell, we can then, take a grip of the game. In that phase, when they've ran, the initial 20 minutes is gone. If they haven't scored, then their fans will definitely turn restless, and every misplaced pass and every slight mistake will be met with a chorus of boos. So it's a horrible place to go, full of horrible people. So I don't envy the Celtic players going there, but they're all professionals. They're all well-paid professionals. They know it's at stake. They've played most of the team have played there before under similar circumstances, so it shouldn't be a surprise to them. And we're looking really for our experienced heads to stand up and be counted.
Yeah, you see this comment here, they were fighting with each other when we won there in September. Same again if we beat them. Be lovely to have a repeat of that. You, you, that guy in the crowd. That was absolutely beautiful. Monty suggests bear on bear action. Not my favourite kind of porn. So we'll move on from that.
What is your favourite kind of porn, Gav?
That's for
Come
another
on.
podcast.
Let's move
Come on,
on.
tell us.
Just have to make sure it's not on when I share screen. You know, that would be disastrous.
Mm.
In the gutter.
So, conversely, of course, if they take the lead and start smelling victory, what's that going to be like, Paul?
Well, we've already established we're not going to get down that road. So,
Well, I was joking.
we in these games, momentum's huge, and you know they will be baying for blood from the outset. And if they get their tails up, they will generate momentum, and it's up to our players to stand up to that and push back on that and sort of get back in the way. If you think back to the last game, they started really upbeat. Obviously, the goal was chopped off, which made them rage as usual. But then we gradually we played our way into the game, and Carl started running the show, and they didn't put pressure on him. Now, I fully expect them to go even one man mark or even two pressure to him if he plays. But that just means there's space elsewhere, and we've got to be smart to manage that. And then we dominated that first half, and the icing on the cake was obviously Kyogo nicking the goal just before half-time. But then after that, we managed that game so well. We did come under heavy pressure. Obviously, their backing was there, but the defence stood up. And bear in, let's remember, that was a totally makeshift team. That was Laga, Bielka, and Scales in the back line. Last time we went to Ibrox, the bench was paper thin. We had Thiago and Home. Kwon was on that bench. Who's not been around since Ira came in. Bernabe, Kobayashi was on the bench that day. That's what I mean. Like that's where we were at last time. And we pulled a rabbit out of a hat. So CCV or neither CCV or Hattati have played a minute against them this season, and they'll both start. There's loads to be positive about. So yeah, there's a potential for them to get their tails up, but I think we've got to come out of the gates. We've got to come out of the gates flying as well, and we get an early goal, and that momentum can really push on from there. And we've got the players to see it out, as we've proved before. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to, and I'm not too interested in thinking about too much on the other side of things.
Well, you can think about this for a moment. Henrik McLaurson saying, geez, I see Paul more than the missus.
I've been a bit busy this week, right enough, but usually you should only see me once or twice a week, not 3.
So do you think the police, Kaiser, are going to be inundated with complaints about the behaviour of people within Ibrox that are falling foul of new legislation?
Well, I think there's going to be no one there to make the complaints, is there? Because there's no Celtic fans there, but TV audience and people listening, I'm sure they'll have sharp ears, and the police will have sharp eyes, and they're basically just going to lock down the entire stadium and just charge everyone on the way in the door, and then charge them all on the way out for a bit of sectarian bigotry. So it's just basically sorted out. I don't know how they're going to police that system. It seems like madness to me. But at the end of the day, when you're trying to make society better and stamp out hatred, it seems inappropriate to speak out against it. But it does seem a very foolish thing to pursue at this point in time, especially given the hatred that festers below the surface. You know what I mean? If they can maintain to keep the bile below the surface, fair enough. But they're throwing glass onto the pitch and vapes and you name it. So it's not exactly the most civilised crowd we play against. So be a very, very busy day for police here in Ibrox, I take it.
Yeah. You see this whole Ali McCoist Ferrari? I'm a bit sort of torn on it. Well, let somebody, I'm sure one of the four of us wants to put the case that McCoist is the wee happy chappy everybody thinks, and that's him revealing his true identity. Who would like to make that point?
Yeah,
thought
Stephen,
so.
there we go.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It was about the poison dwarf.
I was just looking at Steve, waiting for him to go, I do that.
Yeah, McCoy's a nasty wee bastard and always has been. He likes to portray this image of a lovable wee cheeky chappy, but anybody who was around Glasgow in the 90s when McCoist and the Fergusons were doing their thing round the nightclubs and round about all the Rangers pubs, he's just a nasty wee bigot. And it comes to the fore occasionally. This is a man two weeks ago was apoplectic with rage because Scotland fans were booing "God Save the Queen," and now he's saying that it's okay for 50,000 people to be up to their knees in Fenian blood. So
well, he didn't say that.
Yeah, but that was the implication, though, wasn't it?
Well, that's what the people who are up in arms and accusing him of things are implying. That,
well, if he didn't imply that, what did he imply? That's the next step from there.
That's my question. Who can make the case for Ali McCoist then?
Well, I won't make the case for Ali McCoist, but I'll say something which might be slightly unpopular. I think his comments have been exaggerated, blown out of proportion. I honestly do. I think given how he lumped the Derby game in with J.K. Rowling, he was basically saying, he was trying to make the argument like, oh, you can't say anything these days. We live in a world full of snowflakes. It's a ludicrous law created by the wokerati. And
but he's not
if I'm just playing devil's advocate, okay, but just to play devil's advocate, there's a big game going on and it's football rivalry. That'll probably fall of this nonsense law. Maybe that's all he meant. Not I and all Rangers fans should be allowed to reserve the right to express sectarian hatred, as has been characterised.
I think in the first place, what people should understand is it's legislation, and legislation is not law. It is a bill that is waiting to be passed into law. You know what I mean? So it's not even a law, it's a legislation for a start. And I think when you start getting into people trying to prosecute hate crimes and make it an easier life for people of ethnic diversity and sexual diversity, then targeting the Moldovians seems like a very smart way to go. I'm not saying that this new law is targeting them, but I know who it's certainly not targeting. It's not targeting people like me because I don't spew forward hate. I don't need to go and sing about being up to my knees in someone else's blood. That's not my way of supporting. That's not my way of following Celtic. You know what I mean? It's not. I don't get involved in that side of the game, which we all know is there. It's been there. It's a long-running thing. It's been there since my father's father, we could say, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I think it's good to make positive steps to change society as a whole, but exactly how you go about it is where the grey area comes in. You know what I mean? And I think people need to calm down, especially like what Gav is saying, where the Ali McCoist comments, as much as I hate the fat, repugnant little bear, at the end of the day, people have a freedom of speech and they have a right to support and say what they want. They have a right to pursue a religion. See, if you want to worship Kali Ma and drink the blood of goats, that is your business. As long as you don't try and impose that on me, I'm not going to hate on you for it. And then I won't fall foul of this legislation. You know what I mean? Just everybody to their own. It's a bit snowflakey getting, and I think this society nowadays and people nowadays seem to think that if I say something that offends you, that's my problem. It's not. Your offence is your problem. It's not my problem. If I'm willing to stick to my guns and state what I believe in, people should respect people's opinions who come on something like a public forum like this and speak their mind, because you can suffer a lot of slings and arrows for the things you say. You know what I mean? As Ali McCoist, I'm sure, is finding out, and it couldn't happen to a nicer person, in my opinion. But on you go, Ali.
See when you
Right, well, I'm on the naughty step as well.
See
Look
when
at
you're
this.
brought up in the west of Scotland. See when you've been brought up in the west of Scotland, though, when you've been brought up as a Catholic in the west of Scotland or of Irish heritage, you're conditioned by, or you have been conditioned by the Scottish establishment that anti-Catholic sectarianism is your own fault. It's your
That's the
fault
norm.
for bringing it on yourself. It's your fault for sending your kids to a Catholic school. It's your fault for attending your church, and it's your fault. So all this stuff about being up to their knees in Fenian blood, all the stuff with sectarian parades every Saturday from May to September, that's all just banter, and you need to just get on with it because it's not going to change, and that's just it. You just need to deal with it. But Scotland, as a country, is changing. And it's no longer the case anymore. Catholics don't sit at the back of the bus anymore. And that's reflected in the makeup of the parliament. And these sort of things are just not acceptable anymore. And Ali McCoist and his like are just guys that are struggling to come to terms with that. And that's exactly what he's trying to say here. This is just banter. And it shouldn't be perceived as a hate crime because it's just football and it doesn't mean anything. And and that's why I'll be joining in with him. But it's absolute shit. He's a nasty wee bastard, and he knows exactly what he's doing. And he's now shat himself and ran away, having set off the bomb. And he's just a repugnant individual.
Mm-hmm.
It's his usual cheeky. He tries to be cheeky chappy, make a little what he sees as a joke, and it's just an absolutely daft and stupid comment. And
I can agree with that.
Steve's spot on. Steve's spot
on. I got a mental image there when Steve says no longer the Catholics sit at the back of the bus. I was like, Rosa Parks was a provo. Love it. You know what I mean? Walk to the front of that bus and sit down. Just having that mental image there was just surreal. Thanks for that, Stephen.
Okay. Well, look, let's share the love by bringing in somebody else into the chat. Ta-da.
Whoa. Ta-da.
Dano, let's go.
Yeah.
Dano with his wee
Dano
dog.
in the
Keep
cutest
the dog up.
Keep the dog on the camera.
Keep the dog up, rate the ratings, right? Yeah. We don't need.
But I think that'll help everyone in the comments. We can all come together now after a little moment of tension.
Spam likes for the dog.
We're all still part of the same family.
Yeah, everybody's had enough of Budget Beckham, so we'll keep the dog on the screen.
It's Keith Lemon. How did you like that?
Bandy's that one hand, Dano.
Stop misspelling my name, you idiots. Dano is like some kind of Dane Cook comedy tribute act or something that failed several years ago. I don't know what's going on here.
That's funny what Monty says here. When I introduced somebody new was coming into the chat. It's my friend Ali. Come on in, Ali.
Yeah, where's the love, right?
Here to defend himself is Ali McCoy. You need some.
Be brilliant on the back of Steve calling him a repugnant little bastard.
Yeah. Well, here's the repugnant little bastard himself.
Best intro he's ever had. Most honest intro he's ever heard.
And yeah.
All right. So, Dano, where have we got in the conversation? Well, thankfully, you'll be glad you missed the last bit because it was
I caught
tricky.
a lot of it, but yeah, it's all right.
Okay.
It's that week, man. You gotta get it out. There's a lot of bile.
Well, I'm gonna just turn up your mic a wee bit, Dano.
I can turn it up.
No, I've already done it. Just a touch. Okay. At the risk of alienating everybody else again, the next segment is about me being undercover agent. And to do this, I was consuming some Rangers media. How dare I? Get off our screens. I'm unsubscribing. Is anybody else here willing to admit to occasionally watching Rangers fan media?
I do it all the time.
Yeah,
go on.
What, social media?
Yeah.
I watch quite a bit. I forget the guy's name. He always has the post-match reactions, but anytime they draw against one of the wee teams or lose, and especially when we beat them, there's a guy, I forget what he calls himself. He's got a YouTube channel. And it's always
CJ Novo.
CJ Novo, that's it. And that guy drinking his tears after a game is Pretty
Yeah,
good
well,
stuff.
everybody watches a bit of that once they're having a terrible time. That's a different way of watching it, but I watched this anyway to try and get an idea of where they were coming from.
Uh,
I just watch CJ Novo for the way he talks. You know what I mean? Because everything he says is broken. Welcome to the channel.
It's
TJ.
overdone. I don't know how to announce. I have no experience in this. Here we go. Yeah, it's really.
No, the way he introduces videos, like, hello, I'm CJ Nova 992, and I'm back for another brand new video.
It's the batteries are running out.
Jesus.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, let's get on with this. So I was watching the Rangers review, and
Ugh.
for me, that's the place where, if there's such a thing as ordinary, decent Rangers fans,
They're
you
not
might
there.
find one
Yeah,
or two of them.
Doesn't exist.
Unlike the other
Yeah.
ones, Rangers Rabble and all that. But anyway,
They're all
Here's the first
Virgins
point.
Brigade, bro. Every one
here's the
of them.
first. Quiet in the back there. Here's the first point. What does the game mean? According to them, they're saying that they have to win this game because they don't want to be in a position where they have to get points at Celtic Park. So if they can win the game, that's not really a necessity. And they say that we're the ones facing the cliff edge. We lose this, and the title is all but in the bag for them. I mean, that's pretty much what we were discussing earlier about the potential outcomes. So nothing much to disagree with there.
Yeah, they can do math. Good, proven, fantastic.
Okay.
They have got
Congrats.
6 toes in each foot to count.
We are full strength. They're not full strength. They got a bunch of players that somebody else can deal with the comments there while I do this. Cortez, Dowell, Jack, Danilo, Yilmaz. So that's quite good that we're full strength and they're not. That's a positive for us. We pretty much know our best lineup. Like, we could all write what we think the team is today.
Yeah.
But there's loads of debate going on their side as to who plays and where. So I'm going to ask Paul, do you have any particular preference as to who of their players doesn't play? Or where do you see their danger coming from?
I couldn't give a shiny shite, Gav, to be honest.
Okay, well, that's all we've got time for then. Because
well, no, it's all about what I've said. It's all about what we do. I honestly don't care. They've got the odd good player. Butland's a decent keeper, but across the squad, we've got a better squad. If we turn up and play, and the ref is not the major factor in the game, we'll win the game. So no, I don't really care who plays for them. There's pros and cons to most of their players. They'll have a bit more depth than they had previously, but no, I expect us to be stronger overall. And as long as we play our strengths, and the ref doesn't get too heavily involved, we should be on top come the end.
Who do you think is going to be in the midfield battle, where they say the battle will be won in the midfield? Say we have McGregor and Hatate. I think it's most likely to be Lundstrom and Diomande. Steve, do you have anything to say about that? Or do you want to just say, screw them, let's move on?
No, I mean, it's likely going to be Lundstrom, Diomande, and Ryan Cantwell. It's going to be the midfield three. So I think that's probably fairly obvious, and I don't see anything in there that's going to get me scared. The only thing that worries me, and Paul kind of alluded to it earlier, is the referee, because the referee is going to be their biggest player on the day, in my view. And I think the controversy surrounding the appointment of the referee is going to mean that he's probably not going to give anything major in their favour, but there will be a succession of free kicks given to them, all within crossing distance of the box, and any time their players hit the deck. And I fully expect them, guys like Cantwell, will be hitting the deck at any available opportunity, and he will give them free kicks. And that's their biggest threat, because Tavernier does have a good delivery into the box, and we don't have a great record at defending set pieces and crosses from wide areas. So that's probably where we should be focusing in terms of their threat, because that's, as Paul says, I think we've got a better squad than them, but I think our weakness and our Achilles heel is probably set pieces and crosses. So we should be working on how we deal with that. because there will be a lot of free kicks given round about the box.
Yeah,
I think
that's
we
a
just
scary moment.
we need to manage that, Steve. I think you're spot on, but Mera, there's Mera's a much maligned character, but he's got a massive part to play in pushing Tav back and keeping him out of the game for as long as possible.
You're not allowed to say Tav. That's too familiar. You have to mispronounce his name, Tavernier.
Tavernier, yeah.
What is the correct pronunciation? Because my son pulled me up on this the other day as well. What's the correct pronunciation?
I think it's Tavernier.
Before the big game, we're all going to fall out. All the viewers are going to fall out of this.
That's the correct.
You could anglicize it and just call him Taverner or something. I mean, there's a few ways you can go with. Yeah, put the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Let's just call him the fanny that takes all the penalties.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The one they keep calling the games off for because the penalty spots are flooded.
Guess which of our players they see as the weak link?
Taylor.
Scales.
Everyone give an answer. Stephen?
I think I've seen a few of them say they reckon Alistair Johnston's a weak link.
Dano?
I would, if they're smart, they'd say Scales.
2 out of the 4 of you are correct. They say Scales. Got to run at him. He'll collapse in a big ginger heap.
Sorry, I overcredited them for that, but
it's not I don't think it's the running at him that's the issue. I think it's sticking it in behind him and getting him turning that's the issue. But he stood up really like I'm a critic of Scales, but it should be remembered he stood up and he's the consistent performer in that centre back position in derby matches this season. He started with Lagerbielke in the last game at Ibrox. He started with Welsh and he got injured, and then Nawrocki came in. So he's the consistent part, and he's not without his flaws. We know that, but he's been consistent and he's raised his game in the derby matches, same as he did in Europe. He raised his game in Europe. So, if anything, he probably maybe he suffers a bit from having a bit too much time to sort of think about things and lose concentration, whereas he won't be losing concentration in these big matches. So, I'm going to put my criticism on Scales to one side and expect him to stand up again. And with CCV beside him, he'll have much more confidence. And I'm expecting a strong showing from the back line, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll put another question to... Oh, go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, I think Taylor as well. I think Taylor's form over the past 4 or 5 games has been really good. I think he's getting back to his best. So I know he's been criticised a lot, like Scales has over the course of the season. A lot of people are, probably correctly pretty perturbed that we never brought in a left back either in the summer or in the January transfer window. But I think Taylor's really stepped up recently, and I'm not his biggest fan. And I do think we do need to address that position pretty soon. But I think he's done fine. And I don't really have any fears about Taylor in this game. If he's a guy that they think's a weak link, I think they might be mistaken in that.
Yeah, I think so too.
This from Mahesh: stop Tavernier's transition and distribution, and track Cantwell. Don't let him set up the play in the final third. Best way to stop those two is obviously put them under pressure to give them a job of stopping us, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Maeda and whoever's in our midfield pulling the strings. But yeah, I mean, obviously those are two that, if the circumstances allow it, can influence games. I think it's fair to say.
I think it's all about which team presses better, to be honest. Like the last few matches we've had, it's all about where are we positionally on the field and who's pressing better. I mean, if you remember back to the first game at Ibrox, their press was terrible, and they gave McGregor acres of space, was probably the man of the match for that game. So whoever presses more effectively and causes more disruption in the other team's half and more turnovers, man, I think that's the key to the whole thing. The personalities and the players, it does matter, but I think whoever presses better wins.
Okay, one more question then to all 4 of you. Who do they see in our team as being able to cause them the most problems? Who's the one player that they're nervous about?
got to be Kyogo, surely.
I don't know.
Kuhn or O'Reilly.
Hatate. See, we've got loads to
You're
choose
only
from.
allowed one. You're only allowed one answer.
I would say that most worried about McGregor. I think Calmack's the one that they fear the most because they know how much he influences the game.
Right,
Yeah,
well,
I'm with Stephen on that.
Their expressed fear is Kyogo. He's the
Mhm.
danger man. Needs to be stopped. But then they're all saying he's not the same Kyogo under Brendan as he was under the previous manager.
Well, they said enough about him before the last game at Ibrox, saying Shankland was better than him and he couldn't find his way to goal. And there he just rifled one past Butterfingers Butters. And there we go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, just give him one chance, man. You know, he's the tip of the spear.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't get a lot of touches, but once he does, man, look out. And he should have had more goals that game, admittedly.
To address the what Stephen just said there about Cal Mack, what they seem to be saying is he can't be match fit. He can't be match fit, so we'll just have to overrun him in midfield. Won't be the same McGregor. Pete McGee is not of that opinion. Maybe that's their way of hiding behind their fear and saying that, hoping against hope that he isn't match fit and won't be the usual Cal Mack.
Yeah.
I think they'll try and do a number on McGregor. I think they'll try and man mark him, and it is up to whoever else is picked in midfield to sort of nullify that. Hatate, I think, has got a great knack of popping up in really good space and finding good pockets of space. So there'll be a big onus in him because they can't man mark everyone. And if they focus their attention on McGregor, it will leave more space for Hatate to get on the ball and pick out some really good passes down the channels for Kyogo. So that's what I'm hoping happens. And I think they could be drawn into over focusing on McGregor.
It's the epic clash between Lundstrom's staring and McGregor's pointing. Who's going to win? Is McGregor going to point out the place better? Is Lundstrom going to look him off the field? I don't know what's going to happen. But I think Cal Mack is going to turn up and he's going to turn up ready. Any Sevcovians out there who think Cal Mack is going to turn up and he's going to be half prepared, like that guy is like a training machine. He'll be putting in what? Yeah. That guy, if he comes and he pulls his boots on, he's coming out there to play. So I think they can be sure of that. And I think if they push and try and isolate and mark him, like Stephen said, and like Paul said earlier on, maybe push one on him tight and then try and push the other guy to rush onto him, the two midfielders. They're just leaving themselves open to Matt O'Reilly and Rio Hatate, hopefully, just pulling them apart. So
on that, I think this is where, and Steve kind of alluded to his importance earlier. Greg Taylor's got a massive part to play if they do try and man mark or even double team Cal, because when he's at his best, he's stepping in and he's sort of playing that inverted role, and he's obviously a bit of a natural midfielder as he grew up that way. And when he steps into midfield, he makes that extra man, which is partly why we don't necessarily need to put that extra midfielder in we touched on earlier. So if they're sort of pressing him, McGregor can be Taylor can be that extra man. The other interesting thing is if they're going to put up somebody in a man marking position on Callum McGregor, does that mean Cantwell doesn't play? Because he's not going to be asked. He's a creative player. He's not a destructive man marker. So who do you put there? And do you forgo some of the creativity and maybe go for somebody like Lawrence and get a bit more of a kind of all round thing with a bit of pressing and a little bit of like less creativity? I don't know. Like, this is why I think it's interesting, because I think we will set up to play our normal game with the best players available and get them to try and stop us. Whereas I think they will try and stop us. So they'll be tactically leaning towards that. And I think immediately, if that's the mindset, then if that happens, then I think we've won the psychological battle before we're even over the whitewash. And then after that, it's up to bring a performance that matches it.
Mm-hmm. Just as we're winding down this show, the time is running short, and I'm starting to feel nervous because this is our last moment of talking before the game. It feels like, the night before Christmas or something.
Night before the battle, man. The battle.
Still a few sleeps to go.
Gentlemen to bed. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Let me see. Is this the right thing? Let's move on to our Celtic socials. I just wanted to share a little thing that I saw. It's a video. This could be described as a seismic fixture. In fact, I saw it described as seismic earlier on today. And those of us who are based in the Indo-Pacific region know that there was a big earthquake in Taiwan. Was it yesterday? Yesterday.
Yeah.
And
yesterday morning. Yeah.
some unbelievable footage from there, including this one. Why are they reversing?
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
Imagine that.
Dude.
Cheers.
Whoa. Whoa.
I'd have caught that one in the volley.
Jesus Christ.
I'd have brought that down the chest, mate, and volleyed it.
And
you
the
see that?
music, but
that?
the music made it sound like a Quentin
I know.
Tarantino clip or something, didn't it?
But
What's the
see
right
that,
thing
Rob?
to do in those circumstances?
Man, I don't know. Just keep moving. It's hard to call it. Like, just sit there or keep moving, man.
Pray you're not in the way.
Or get out of your car and run flush up against that wall, because nothing will hit you if you're flush against the wall.
Yeah, just duck against a barrier or something. Forget the car.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
So, it's just a game of football
Chest it
coming up.
down.
It's not like the whole earth is shaking.
Bring it down in your
Game of
chest,
football.
bro. Flip it up, catch it in your neck, catch it in the volley.
Man,
All the
that
time.
is wild. Though, did you guys see that? Did you guys see that building right downtown Taipei?
Yeah.
Just tilted, just sitting
Mhm.
there. Whew.
And then there was also footage of there's lots of rooftop swimming pools, and
Yeah,
the water all falling
Just-
down
Oof.
rhythmically,
yeah,
falling down to the street.
yeah.
I hope
Absolutely
everyone's
crazy.
okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. It seems like there were a
That's
lot
a
of
shame.
injuries, but not a lot of collapses and death and stuff like that. It seems so.
Yeah, and I think in that footage,
Very
one
lucky.
car got hit at the back, but I doubt that would have caused too much trouble. Wouldn't be
I don't
showing
know,
anything like that. Well, don't make me feel bad for showing that.
Look pretty
I hope
rough
they're
to
okay
me,
as
man.
well, Mitch.
Yeah.
Just
yeah,
see when I says I'd catch it on the volley. It just reminded me is when I used to fill a ball up with like red ash and leave it outside the pitch and shout the guy like, "Big man, that ball!" and he'd run on volley it. You know, did that many a time. Stephen, have you done that before? Fill the bus ball up with a few rocks.
Okay, so another couple of
That's a guy a medicine ball acting like it's a basketball. Oh,
Stephen, do you want to talk to us about this one? Because you and Paul initially chose the same tweet by Tam Seligson, one of our favourites.
Yeah, I think this is alluding to the statement that came out of Livingston that accusing the Celtic fan groups of the Green Brigade of smuggling this banner into the spaghetti had on Saturday, and this thing's about 25 feet long and takes about 5 people to handle it, and you can actually see there the steward giving them a hand. So they've done well there to smuggle that in.
Yeah. He's got it under his arm there, Stephen. I don't know if you know that's a classic technique for hiding things. You know what I mean? Get it under the armpit.
It's like the half the football field. Like smuggled it in.
Then his trousers down, no one noticed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Just we invited all of our very blessed male friends to bring that in. Yeah.
Just Daniel's Gav, you're muted, brother.
It's because the bloody dogs were barking. I always forget to unmute myself. We've only got one other social media to show because Dano, I can't share YouTube. It would mess up the stream. Amateur.
Well, I mean, can't show the video. No, nothing. Jeez.
No, Paul, you talk us through this one.
Yeah, so we've not had fit by tweets as we all know is one of my favourites. This goes back to last week. I don't know if anybody saw the Hibs friendly fire where he managed to knock two of his players on his backside by hitting one in the face and then the rebound hit the other one in the face. Yeah, ridiculous footage, but I thought this was a funny little cartoon of what was a ridiculous incident. So yeah, a little bit of a light-hearted note to finish out. Let's hope that 2 or 3 of them get a smack in the face on Sunday.
Well, let's hope the football is the winner. It's just an
Let's hope
atmosphere
Celtic
of
is the
love.
winner.
I just
Yeah.
Look at football.
I can live without.
If it's a
football
horrible
winning on
match and
Sunday.
we win
If
1-0, that'll do me.
We win. Football automatically wins in this one. We're good.
Mhm.
We're good. Everything will work itself out. Fuck that.
Right. Well, look, today's journey has had ups and downs. We've had falling outs and making ups. So let's just all come together. Let's all do the huddle. Let's all do the huddle. Nah. Lads,
Ridiculous.
it's been a pleasure serving with you as we go into this battle.
Give us the Hatati in the huddle. Forwards.
All right. So do we want to do some score predictions then? Why don't we quickly run
let's
on
go.
score predictions in clockwise order? I'll go first and say lots of goals. 3-2 victory for the Celtic. Paul.
2-1. Us.
Kaiser.
Oh, I'm optimistic. 4-1 to the Hoops. Destruction Derby. Let's go.
Stephen.
2-0 to the champions.
And Dano.
I'm going to say 3-1, but it'll be dramatic. A couple late goals.
Oh.
Because it hasn't been any other way aside from Livingston. So, but I think
Okay,
our fitness will shine through.
To everyone who's watching, hello on various platforms. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you thought it wasn't pure pish, as the ticker said, please feel free to subscribe, and then you'll click the bell for notifications. You'll be informed when we're on again. So that's it, really, lads. That's it. Next time we meet, we're going to know what happened.
No.
Go the match.
But that's pretty mad to think about. All right. See you on the other side, everyone. Let's do this.
On the
Hail,
Hibs.
hail.
Hail.
Hail.